is a party which is proud of India's cultural heritage, and therefore we are not ashamed to identify ourselves with it. And therefore, even when it comes to an issue like Ram Mandir, how we are able to achieve, whether it's through a judicial process or a settlement, is a separate question. But we do stand committed to it.
Okay. That lady wants to ask a question. Yes.
NCTC can help in combating terrorism, but BJP is opposing it. That's why, sir?
Well, that's a wrong concept we have. First of all, let's understand how terrorism is to be contained. Now, to contain terrorism and the kind of terrorism that you have in India, you have the Maoist insurgency, you have a problem in Northeast, you have domestic modules of jihadi terrorism, you have cross-border terrorism. Now, under our constitutional system, you have two important aspects. The defense and sovereignty of India are the prime responsibility of the central government. Law and order, police is the exclusive domain of the state government. That's the Indian constitution, that's the federalism. Now, terrorism has to be contained in light of both. As far as cross-border terrorism is concerned, it's the capacity and the ability of the central government to really get that intelligence. As far as interstate intelligence is concerned, because several terrorist organizations may have national modules, is the responsibility of the central government. But policing is the only and exclusive responsibility of the state government. Now, to say that you will have a counter-terrorism center, which will have an intelligence grid, fair enough, I have no difficulty. Which will share intelligence, very good, there is no difficulty. But the operational part, that is searching people, arresting people, prosecuting those people, now that's a police function. Now, the moment you say the police function belongs to the central government, I'm afraid you are altering the Indian constitution. That can't be done. Therefore, you need not have a meaningless debate like terrorism versus federalism. It's a joint responsibility of both the governments.
It's not a meaningless debate, because we've seen, for example, in the United States, because they worked together, they were able to combat terrorism. Don't you think when it comes to
the American NCTC, and Mr. Chidambaram borrowed the idea from the American NCTC. The American NCTC is an intelligence collecting and a processing center. Operational power even in America is not with the NCTC. And that's the only difficulty I have with the NCTC.
No, because on issues like terrorism, states and
centers
need to work together. Everybody is so bothered about their own turfs and their own domains that they're not looking at the larger national picture.
Let's be specific. Of course, you have to work together. Therefore, the NCTC should not take the police operational power in its own domain and keep the states out. After all, it's the states which have the police function.
But now the government has said they're prepared to make certain changes, which will ensure that the state police does not feel left out.
I am sure if the government creates an NCTC within the constitutional framework, respecting the power of the states, there is no reason why anybody would be opposed to it.
Okay.
My reaction to this, Mr. Jaitley, there are three reasons for terrorism. One, of course, is the clandestine funding channels. Second is concentration of illegal arms in ghettos. I don't want to mention the areas. And the third is very lengthy, slow process of judicial trials. Is there a serious effort by any political party to ensure, like America, after 9/11, there has been no funding case of militant, while it continues to happen in India? That's my one question. Second question is, it is only when a scam of the ruling party is exposed, all of you make a lot of noise. But the corruption is inbuilt in our system in the form of policy, programs. Has there been any sincere effort by you as a leader, opposition party, to ensure that our policies, programs become more transparent and accountable?
Well, let me come on with your first question, which is a very serious issue which you've raised. Why is it that in the United States of America, post 9/11, there's hardly been a major case of a terrorist attack? And in India, every time there is a terrorist attack, we condemn it and then we wait for the next attack to happen. And that's the position that happens in India. I think our national approach on terror has to be very clear. The battle against terror or the war on terror has to go on uninterrupted. You can't interrupt the war and then lower your guards. You cannot afford for any form of terror to in fact dilute your battle. Now, I for one feel, you spoke about the judicial delays in this whole process. There was no reason why India even today should not have an anti-terror law. Europe has it, America has it, and they don't have a fraction of the kind of terrorism problems that we have. Their intelligence network is concentrated on security. What we've done is that we are frittering away our intelligence resource, which is a national resource, and using a very large part of it for political and quasi-political extraneous reasons. We need not do that. You have to concentrate on that. Now, as far as corruption is concerned, I think you are absolutely right. It's eating into our vitals. We still don't have an adequate system of, or a transparent system of political funding in this country. When I was the law minister, we changed it. We not only provide permitted funding by check donations, I took an extraordinary step that says whoever gives by check, to that extent will get an income tax deduction, so that people are incentivized. Even today I find not more than a small fraction of political funding is coming by check. Countries in Europe, United States, large democracies, every penny of what you spend in politics is accounted for. Now this raises the next issue. How do you collect funds then? You misuse discretions. Then you create mechanisms like investigative agencies which the governments would like to control. And when governments control them, you went to the Supreme Court and that landmark judgment in your own case where they said make the CBI independent of the government. Effectively, has it happened? We've now spent 17, 18 years after that judgment. The answer is no.
You see, performance and secularism, they are going to be the main issues again in the coming elections.
The first one you said performance.
Secularism and performance. Have you really prepared a balance sheet of your own party in terms of these two bases, or rather would you depend only on the negatives of the ruling party?
Not in the least. You see, every party has to go to the people. What do you go on? I think there are three important factors. First will be a question of leadership. What is the kind and quality of leadership that you are projecting? Regrettably, what happens in our case is, because we are not a party given to a dynastic democracy, you have a galaxy of leadership. So we'll have in a particular age bracket a large number of chief ministers, central leaders. So instead of saying that in a proper structured party which must throw up a large number of leaders, oh, this is a problem for you. Second, does the leadership and the party have any credibility, both in terms of its ideology, also in terms of integrity of its leaders and otherwise? Thirdly, in terms of your programs and your performances. So people are going to judge us by the way our governments do perform. So whether it's Madhya Pradesh or it's Chhattisgarh or it's Gujarat, wherever we have an opportunity to come to power, or the NDA government in Bihar, wherever we are performing, we are certainly going to be judged by our performances.
Okay. We'll slip into a quick break. Lots of people still waiting to ask questions. Mr. Jaitley also spoke about the issue of TownHall. We've got leader of the opposition in the Rajya Sabha, Mr. Arun Jaitley, with us. Nirja will ask the first question in the second.
Mr. Jaitley, you spoke about the galaxy of leaders in the BJP and you are amongst the top 2 or 3 today. You have many things going for you. You are the moderate face, open face, clean face in the BJP. Many think you're capable of running any of the 4 top departments of government. In some ways, you're representative of a new changing middle class urban India. And yet, this is the yet I want to ask you. You have not come across so far as being able to connect with rural India and the perception of being a mass leader. You have not even contested a Lok Sabha election. Now, is this because of an aversion to it? Is this because of a strategy or just temperament?
Well, all I can tell you, Nirja, is politics and political opportunities are also an art of the possible. Now, in 1999, when I was first asked to join the government of Mr. Vajpayee, I'd never contested an election. I had no intention of doing so. In fact, I became a member of parliament 6 months after becoming a minister. Even prior to that, my responsibility was more in the party, organizing elections, etc. So the party decided accordingly. Hopefully this time they decide otherwise.
Would you like to fight the next elections? Would you like to fight the next elections?
Well, if the party decides, certainly.
Where from? From Gujarat or from
obviously
Delhi?
I can't.
What would you prefer? Gujarat, Delhi?
No, I'm
safe
certainly...
seat. Is Mr. Jaitley cut out for the heat and dust of electoral politics?
Well, certainly I would like to contest. I started my career as a young student contesting elections and then I gave it up I was a lawyer. I was working in the party from behind the scenes, and hopefully one day I do.
But why is that you've not been able to come across as a mass leader?
You see, I don't know. You are entitled to your assessment, and I have no claims to be one. But in my training as a political worker, both outside Parliament, in Parliament, there's a particular kind of an activity I've got associated with. And therefore, I've confined myself to that activity. In the process, there are sections where you find easier to identify. There are sections, hopefully as you grow, you'll find easier to identify.
But are you at peace with the fact that you will never be a man of the masses?
Well, I'm not jumping to any conclusion to myself. There's never a last day in the calendar of politics.
So you will keep, but is it important for you? The fact
But
that
certainly,
in the villages, let me say, for example, people watching headlines today, English news, will really know Mr. Jaitley much better than somebody sitting far in the village. Why is that? That you appear to be more of a man of the
I'm
classes
equally
than the
comfortable
masses.
on Aaj Tak also.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm saying, my question is in terms of how you're perceived by people in rural India vis-a-vis how you're perceived in urban.
Well, it's true that I have not done my politics in rural India. I was born and brought up in Delhi. My politics stemmed out of Delhi itself. And therefore, if people have that impression, it's a legitimate impression to have. But as you grow in politics, you get a lot of opportunities and you get a chance to grow. And hopefully I do get that.
Okay, that gentleman.
Mr. Jaitley, it is said that BJP is remote controlled by RSS. So how do you react to this allegation?
Well, you see, these are all phrases which you can use. In democratic politics, a party which has become now a mass party. We are a cadre-based party, but we are also a mass organization now. The fact that in 8-9 states we had state governments even when we are in opposition. We've had a government in the central part of the government. Therefore, political parties of this kind have to respond to the people. They have to take their own decisions. You can have friendly organizations, you can consult on a lot of subjects, but I can assure you that decisions relating to BJP, its policies, etc., we consult a lot of people, but are taken within the party itself.
But why is it then there's such a widespread perception that the BJP is actually remote controlled through Nagpur? That yes, you all are notionally present, but the big decisions are taken by the people sitting at the Sangh headquarters.
For instance, I'll tell you, on all policy matters, we take our decision ourselves. Let's take an important stage, Parliament is in session. Do you expect a political party which has such a large presence in Parliament every morning to consult somebody and say, well, what should I do?
No, that's the workings of the
there
BJP.
are issues.
But on issues of who will be the next president, whether a particular charge of corruption will mean that someone should be violated or not, on those, the RSS is supreme.
Well, you can consult anybody. You can make people a part of the decision-making process. Even this time, I can tell you, the final decision, when we had a change recently, was taken in consultation with a lot of people in the party. It was taken out of a meeting which was held in one of my houses itself. It was widely reported. Mr. Rajgopalan is laughing because he has an office next door to it.
The gentleman in the blue shirt. Yes.
Yeah. My question, Mr. Jaitley, is why is your party still keeping the people dark about its prime ministerial candidate? Or is it not going to be Mr. Modi? Like, what seems to me is that you're trying to play a safe game.
The problem is not with our keeping the party in dark. The problem is a certain kind of a mindset Indian political audiences have developed. You see, there are two kinds of political parties in India. And I want to emphasize this. There are parties which have become crowds around a family. And therefore, the leadership and the next leadership of those parties is known when the next heir apparent is born. That he, 30 years later, will be the leader of the party. These are not leaderships on basis of any hard work, on basis of any proven ability, proven performance, or any leadership on basis of actual performance. Now, these are parties, not necessarily a party in the center. In the states also, you have a large number of parties to this effect. Now, in structured political parties, whether it's the left parties or the BJP, people have to struggle 20, 30, 40 years before you get into the first row. And in any structured party, you will have a large number of people. Now, how is it that the two political parties in the United States elect their leader? You have primaries. In England, you have party conferences. And then you project a particular shadow prime minister or the leader of the next election or a presidential candidate. Now, you can take it, we have no such systems in India. But when Nirja also just now mentioned that you speak in terms of a galaxy of leadership, I call it the Indian equivalent of the primaries which are on as far as the BJP is concerned. And you will very soon find...
So are you trying to play a safe game that once the 2014 election numbers are out, then you will decide
it's not that.
If you want to go with
everybody
Mr.
gets
Modi?
a chance to perform, and finally at the end of the day, when the appropriate time comes, the best within the system takes over. So even when we had the tallest leader in our party, unquestionably the tallest, Mr. Vajpayee, it's only on the eve of 1996 that one day Mr. Advani, after consulting everybody, announced that he is going to be the leader.
So
therefore, in our party...
No, but his question is about the suspense around Narendra Modi. Why is there so much suspense and hype around
why
whether
does
he's
it have to
coming
be on the basis of number of seats? Why not before? Why are you not sure of Mr. Modi?
No, we have not said that we will announce it on the basis of the number of seats. At an appropriate time, the party will certainly announce. There is a lot of interest in Mr. Modi. I can also see a certain amount of groundswell. And that is why probably the media also adds to that interest being built up. Therefore, we'll keep all your good suggestions in mind when we decide that.
What's your take on this? Is it because of media hype as the Congress believes that there is so much buzz around the name of Mr. Modi? How do you compare it with other leaders in the past?
I don't think it's merely the media buzz. In fact, when there was a huge media buzz against him, he had the strength to survive by addressing audiences directly over the heads of a hostile media. There are not many other Indian politicians who have done that. And therefore, after that, to have performed extremely well and win 3 times in a row, and even when the rest of India was economically not doing so well, to continue a single focused attitude, emphasis on performance, I think he's made a mark. And as I said, I can actually see a certain amount of interest, and that interest is on account of a groundswell, at least amongst a certain section of people which is building up.
Okay, that lady has a question.
Yeah, sir. Sir, I wanted to ask this question. Sir, are you by any case sir, it's a rumor that you're already backing Mr. Modi as a PM next election. Sir, is it true that you work as a team together?
Well, he and I have worked a lot together.
Both of you backing each other?
So she's saying that there is this big conspiracy theory where the seats are divided. If, for example, Mr. Modi gets to about 180, 185,
him as a PM?
then he's number 1, you're number 2. If not,
well, I don't think
he helps you become Prime Minister. He helps you become Prime Minister with him being in the shadow backing Arun Jaitley as Prime Minister.
Not in the least.
I'm sure you've heard this theory.
Well, it hasn't crossed my mind.
No, but you heard the theory, it's come. But what do you make of it? The
well,
fact
I think it's too early to discuss all this. I think the party at an appropriate time will take a suitable decision, and you don't think in terms of this kind of a planning when you are within the party.
Sir, how do you intend to keep in Nitish Kumar if Modi's name is announced?
Well, politics is not about everything coming to you very easily. And I can tell you an illustration I remember in 1989 when Mr. V.P. Singh became the Prime Minister. And therefore, he had to continue as a Prime Minister with the BJP support on one hand and the left parties on the other. And once every week, he used to organize a dinner between the left parties and the BJP to continue in power. So your sister publication, the India Today, came out with a very nice issue saying managing contradictions. That's the art of governance. And therefore, if you are in politics, you will have to handle these contradictions. These are challenging situations.
No, but is the BJP reconciled to the fact that if and when Mr. Modi's name is projected...
Well, I can only tell you this.
Nitish Kumar will walk out.
Our experience of NDA has been a very good experience. We would like to see the NDA not only preserved, we'd like to see the NDA expand. And therefore, we work in that direction.
No, so you haven't answered the question. Do you think Nitish Kumar will stay in a dispensation where Modi is at the helm, or are you reconciled to the fact that
Well,
Nitish
I am
Kumar
not
will
going to
walk
comment on any hypothetical situations.
You went to Bihar, you met Nitish Kumar.
Well, I am continuously in touch with him.
Yes.
And therefore, I have had detailed discussions with him.
So why didn't you tell us
And
what transpired?
why should I tell you all this and create more problems for myself?
That lady over there.
Sir, many of ministers in your party have criminal charges against them. For charges as in criminal also and other charges also. For example, Mr. Gadkari, who was also the president of your party, he also had some sort of charges against him. Will it affect the elections coming up?
Well, there are no charges against him. Nobody has filed any case against him. Somebody raised an issue in relation to his business and he said, I am willing for an inquiry. The concerned departments of the government are holding that inquiry. That's about all.
She has a follow-up question on it.
Yeah. So, what do you feel about people with criminal charges being able to contest election? Why isn't the opposition doing anything?
I'll tell you. You see, there are two conflicting views in the politics itself. The first view is that the moment there is a charge framed against you, you must go out of the electoral process. That's an ethical view. It has a moral, social reasoning behind this particular view. The counter to this is that filing a criminal case is within the jurisdiction of a state government. And therefore in states like UP, Tamil Nadu, now Bengal, which have extremely acrimonious politics, it may be very easy for a ruling party in a state. You just have to file one case, have a charge frame, and then you say the opponent can't contest elections. Now, do we go to a situation like that? So we've been stuck up in this debate. When I was the law minister in the NDA government, I came out with a middle-of-the-road proposal, which will satisfy the moral conscience of the society, at the same time, not to at least reduce this policy of misuse. We defined a certain number of offences as heinous offences. Now, if you have in 2 cases charges of heinous offences against you, you must go out. Now, with this proposal, we went to Parliament, and regrettably, there was not one political party except our own which was willing to support us in this. And therefore, the proposal had to be shelved.
No, but she asks an important question about 163 MPs with some form of criminal case against them. How do we ensure they don't contest? How do we ensure they don't contest the next election?
163, I have also examined it, is a little exaggerated. You may have a case of a political demonstration. You may have a trade union leader with a case against him. The serious issue is those with cases which involve a certain element of moral turpitude, which are not merely cases registered because of political protests. Now, ideally, if there is a serious case, the party should not give them tickets. But then let me appeal to all of you and to people through you. Even when parties make a mistake, people must not vote for them.
Okay.
Mr. Jaitley, I want to ask you a question about Karnataka. This is the first time a BJP government on its own has run a state in southern India. It's about to complete its full term of 5 years. You've had to change your chief minister. Your former chief minister, Mr. Yediyurappa, is fighting against your party today. One of your former ministers, Gali Janardhan Reddy, has been in jail for the last 15 months. Are you happy with the performance of the BJP in Karnataka?
Well, politically, I was quite happy with the performance. I was in charge of the elections. But also keep one thing in mind, because we have a sense of accountability, the moment there were allegations, even though he continues to be extremely popular, we asked him to leave. We've paid a political cost for it. But to pay the Congress had a chief ministerial candidate in Himachal Pradesh who had allegations far more serious than what were there in Karnataka. To win the election, they made him the head of the party and then made him the chief minister. But we suffered a political cost because there were allegations against him.
You are suggesting that in the coming assembly elections, the chances of the BJP returning to power in Karnataka are rather remote.
We are going to try and do as well as we can.
Okay. The gentleman over there.
Good evening, Mr. Jaitley. Delhi gang rape, had you been the law minister, what stand would you have taken or what law would you have suggested to Justice Verma panel? Point number one.
Well, I think there are many aspects of the Justice Verma report, I read the whole report, which are extremely good suggestions. There are some issues on which probably the government, the opposition, and some sections, a larger consensus would have to build up. And therefore, my suggestion would have been on areas on which almost a near consensus exists, and most of those areas there is a near consensus, I would go and legislate them immediately without any difficulty. And I hope in this session that is legislated. If there are some areas, 1 or 2 areas of difficulty, let's not reject them. We must refer them to the Parliamentary Standing Committee, ask the Standing Committee in the next 2 to 3 months to consult larger sections of the society, do its homework, and come out with their legislative proposals as to what is possible with or without any changes.
So just one more question. Let's say if BJP comes into power, will you make CBI independent?
Well, I have a detailed note which I have given to the Parliamentary Select Committee. I would prefer it to be independent of the government, but if the governments are not willing to make it independent, I had made a 10-point formulation on how to immunize CBI from politics. And those 10 points which I have said, I can go into those details. They are all on my website. You can actually read them. The select committee accepted some 8 out of those 10 suggestions. Now I find the cabinet has diluted another 2. So when the debate takes place in this session of parliament, we'll probably get an opportunity to re-emphasize those 10 points.
No, but he's making an important question, and you must commit that if going forward the BJP were to form a government, will you ensure...
Well, that's exactly what I've said.
No, but will you ensure at that time that the party will actually push this through?
Well, I have said I have, for the complete independence of the CBI, on behalf of the party, we were 3 members of the BJP in the select committee. Under our signatures, we've given a 10-point proposal how to distance it from the government itself.
Okay.
Sir, the government has enough scams and criminal cases already, and safety, security, poverty, corruption is already a major challenge for the government. But what assurance can we have that if your party comes to power, it will not be corrupt, it will be any better? And also, I'd like to know what measures would you take to tackle these situations and to make the country a better living place?
I'll straight away tell you, India needs to eliminate discretions completely. Because there are discretions available and discretions are exercised by people on top, the exercise of discretion involves arbitrariness, involves corruption. I think we need to streamline our policy that discretions must completely be eliminated, and therefore you must have more mechanical exercises rather than have those discretions. Secondly, when people are involved, I just said in an answer to an earlier question, you need an investigative mechanism which is at an arm's length away from the government. And 3, the eventual answer is we need to bring in, and this is what I feel very strongly about, the fear of law into our political system. And the fear of law is it's about time that people started going to jails and spending a reasonable amount of time there when they are held guilty of these offences.
Mr. Jaitley, one of the worrying things at the moment is the way disruptions are marking Parliament's functioning. And actually noise has become the language of parliamentary debate. And this is going to discredit the entire political class. People are really fed up the way Parliament is hijacked. You, as leader of the opposition, your party has said time and again, made resolves that we will not go into the well of the House, we will not do this, that and the other, and yet you're back to the same thing. As the leader of the opposition, what new initiative are you going to take so that this can actually be rectified?
Nidya, the first good news is that this session has started without a disruption. And therefore, hopefully this continues without disruptions. But let me tell you, running Parliament and running it effectively is not the only responsibility of the opposition. If the government perpetuates an environment of confrontation, let's take an issue. December 2010, we lost 1 full session because of disruption of the 2G scam. Now it's very unfortunate that we lost one full session of Parliament. But for that disruption, you wouldn't have had the arrests, you wouldn't have had the charge sheets, you wouldn't have had the JPC, and you wouldn't have had the cancellation of the contracts. You wouldn't have had the Supreme Court taking such a great note of it and jumping into it. Therefore, one of the greatest scandals in recent history got highlighted because the government at times wants you to only talk through an issue for a day and then forget about it. At times, a limited obstructionism also can help you in emphasizing a point. But as far as I am concerned, obstructionism is never a substitute for a debate. Also, when you say that it brings a bad name, let me tell you, I've seen parliaments functioning all over the world. Serious debates in Indian parliament are almost as good as you have them elsewhere.
But they're so rare, they're barely...
Why do you make it so rare? Your programs at times become so boring that you switch them off and make people listen to parliamentary debates because the TRPs go up.
No, but
why is it?
I dispute that. The fact is,
why is it that the quality of Indian parliamentary debate is now recognized by news channels that at times you find 20 news channels telecasting the same debate?
No, because it's such a rarity. It is such a rarity. That is a rare spectacle that it happens that channels feel happy that someone is debating. Parliament is doing what it is supposed to. Ordinarily, everybody is jumping into the well of the House, making a noise, and no debate happens.
On a lighter note, I can tell you that even though you may call it a rarity, I enjoy it much more than your 9 o'clock debate.
Oh, absolutely. We enjoy it much more than the 9 o'clock debates, and we'd rather have more parliamentary debates.
Mr. Jaitley, the point is, isn't it possible for people like you and your colleagues to put the government on the mat by a debate and not disruption?
But what makes you think we don't do that?
No, you do that, but you let weeks go by.
No, but I'll tell you.
Actually not allowing the House to function account the government.
Therefore, if the government adopts an approach which creates an environment of confrontation, you'll find difficulty. Supposing in the 2010 session, the government had said JPC in the beginning of the session. How many days are lost because you say, I won't allow a debate on price rise? Now, if you don't allow a debate on a voting motion on price rise or on a voting motion on FDI in retail, Parliament is supposed to vote. So, how many days have been lost because of the government's insistence of not allowing that? Therefore, governments will have to be reasonable also. There is a space where popular issues of public interest, which are raised by the opposition, time has to be conceded for those debates in Parliament.
Okay. All right, we're going to leave it over there. Mr. Arun Jaitley, for participating in the Right to be Heard Town Hall, for hearing what people want to ask and for answering their questions. Thank you very much.